Duolingo update time. Currently, and actually since 2020, I have been working on Korean, but I have been working on it very, very slowly. So I haven't made a ton of progress in the whole course. So I wanted to start learning Korean for 2 reasons. So the first reason is because I got super into K-pop and K-dramas, and I wanted to start learning the language that I was constantly listening to. And secondly, I wanted to learn a language just for fun. And so why not pick a language that I was very much immersed in?
So I have been learning German on Duolingo for the past almost 3 years. I first started becoming interested in German when I was probably in high school. I always just found kind of the sounds and the tones of the language to be very interesting. A lot of times people say it's a very harsh or guttural language, but I find it to be really interesting and beautiful. So when Jeanette first told me about Duolingo, I decided to try it.
Some of the things that I really like about learning Korean is I get to learn a new alphabet. Being able to read and write in a complete different system of writing characters is really fun. I feel very accomplished, and once I learned the alphabet, I was very proud of myself just because it's something that is completely different from English or any other language that I had ever learned before. I sometimes love the challenge of learning a very different grammatical system to English. I feel like I had a little bit of help because it's typically a difficult language for English speakers to learn because of the grammatical difference. But one of the other languages that I learned was a Turkic language, and there's actually some similarities in grammar structure, and so I feel a little bit of a head start to understanding the grammar system, but sometimes it's still very challenging for me to understand what is going on.
기린이 물을 어떻게 마십니까? 어떻게 기린이 물을 어떻게 마십니까? 어떻게 마십니까?
Overall, I have really enjoyed the process. There have been a couple times when Duolingo has updated their app when I've been very annoyed, and honestly I've contemplated stopping learning German because with each update there have been times where they haven't saved my progress or they've had me relearn things that I learned a long time ago. So it's just been kind of frustrating trying to keep my forward momentum going. But I am glad that I didn't stop, and I knew that if I did stop that I would end up regretting it. During those times I've done a lot of just review lessons and keeping going that way so that I don't lose my daily streak. And then when I'm feeling up to it mentally, then I will progress forward in some of the new lessons.
Entschuldigung. Brauche. Moment.
Ich brauche ein Formular, richtig? Ich brauche ein Formular, richtig? Richtig.
I still know very little Korean, but it is absolutely thrilling when I'm listening to a K-pop song or I'm watching a K-drama and my knowledge from either that show transfers or that song transfers to Duolingo, or my knowledge from Duolingo transfers to that song or show. And I just get a thrill out of knowing the tiniest little thing and being like, I know that. There's a lot of things that are actually really hard about learning Korean. And I feel like, especially on Duolingo, I got to a point in the course where it no longer felt easy. And so that's kind of where I kind of slowed down a lot in my progression in the course, because I was like, oh wow, I actually need to put a lot more effort into this than I have time for. And so that makes it difficult of not having the time to put in as much effort as I would like to be able to progress more in the course. One thing that specifically is very difficult for me is spelling in Korean. There's a lot of words that I just have to memorize how to spell them because it doesn't make sense to me why the characters are going in the way that they go into the word. So that's really challenging for me. I think with all of that though, I can definitely empathize a lot more with English learners because English really doesn't make sense, and so like I have more of like that understanding and compassion for people that are learning English and are like, this makes no sense, and I'm like, I know.
오이,
길,
화장실,
기린, 책상,
Some of the sounds and like the tongue placements to pronounce the words correctly have been difficult for me to learn. I find that the best way for me to learn is when I see the sentences to say them out loud, or when they have the audio, just repeat it out loud. And I think just that process of saying it out loud instead of just doing the lessons mentally is really helpful. There's still some occasions when my brain will switch to some random Spanish word from when I took high school Spanish, which that's always kind of funny. But there's also some super cool moments when my brain just kind of automatic, like I just see a word or phrase and I know what it is in German. Most often I still feel like I'll see a sentence in German and then I will have to take the pieces, put it into English, and then retranslate it into German. So it's still kind of like a mental process, but every time that it just comes instantaneously is super exciting and encouraging. I still have to take it relatively slow because fast-paced conversations or even normal-paced conversations are still a lot for me to be able to keep up with. But sometimes I will practice by listening to German podcasts or German accounts on Instagram or German YouTube accounts.
Neuschwanstein ist in Deutschland wirklich beliebt.
Können die Touristen hier Fahrkarten kaufen?
Another area that I think is quite difficult is that I don't really have anywhere to practice speaking Korean, which is always the hardest part of language learning. I know that will be more difficult if I ever get to a situation where I could speak in Korean and like I knew more of like not just basic stuff, but not having that place to practice is difficult. I think the hardest thing for me is just staying motivated and keeping moving forward like through the course and not just going back and like reviewing lessons that I have already completed. My streak days definitely keep me motivated because of how long I've been doing it. My motto is always keep a streak freeze on hand because some days are just too much and life gets in the way and I am not able to do my lesson for the day, but I do rely a lot on my streak freezes. But I think, yeah, just motivation of like life cycles and when I have time for it. Sometimes I go to bed and I just completely forget and I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I forgot. And other times it's like I consciously choose this is not going to be the day that I do Duolingo.
한국 아이는 개구리를 가방에 놓습니다. 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 가방에 놓습니다.
I think one of the things that is most exciting to me about this is finally doing something that I always said someday I wanted to do. And you know that list that you just have, the someday list? And my list was getting very long, and this was one of those things that when Jeanette told me about the Duolingo app, that I was just like, why not? I do not have to wait. Let's try to learn a new language. So it's been really exciting to just try new things, learn new things, and grow as a person. And it's not also just been fun and personally rewarding, but it's also just been freeing to try something new. I look forward to the day when I am feeling ready and comfortable to actually talk to some native German speakers. And I'm definitely excited for when I'm able to go travel to Germany. It is towards the top of my bucket list, so I look forward to that day.
Ich mache Urlaub in Berlin. Ich lerne Deutsch mit Duo, aber ich habe auch mein Wörterbuch im Koffer. Wörterbuch.
If you are undertaking a language learning project, we would love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments what language you are learning. Good luck along the way, and happy learning!